everybody. Just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on the special episode that you're about to get ready to dive into. This is source material's contribution to the Superblog team-up. So if you have not heard of the Superblog team-up before, it is a gathering of like-minded individuals who either write or do podcasts, usually centered around comics. Now, this iteration of the Superblog team-up is all about the work of George Pérez. So all of us got together to discuss certain books or works in his career, and this is source material's addition to that. Go to Twitter or Google, and you can type in Superblog Teamup or hashtag SBTU, and you should be able to find a lot of the work that is being completed for this. But there will be links to all of the other contributors in the show notes. Before we get into the episode, I'll just run down real quick what we have going on here. This went live Thursday, January 20th. The Superhero Satellite just has something titled Perez. Go check out charltonhero.wordpress.com, and you should be able to find the blog that Chris Bailey had wrote. Then we have Between the Pages blog, George Pérez's Uncanny X-Men. Should be able to find that at betweenthepagesblog.com. And then we have The Telltale Mind giving us Future Imperfect. So check out thetelltalemind.com for that entry. In my not-so-humble opinion, iBots from Techno Comics. Check out benjaminherman.wordpress.com for that article. Dave's comic blog is coming through with George Pérez's fantastic Titanic firsts. So check out davescomicheroes.blogspot.com for that article. Comics blog is bringing us Justice League of America 200 and discovering George Pérez. Just check out comics.blog and you should be able to find the article there. Asterisk 51, Evan Bevins coming through with JLA Avengers, It Had to Be George. Should be able to find that at asterisk51.blogspot.com. That's asterisk51.blogspot.com. The Radulich and Broadcasting Network should be releasing a comic strip on Logan's Run. I'll be participating in that, and of course it's Mark Radulich, myself, and we look to be joined by Evan Bevins and Al Sedano of Resurrections and Adam Warlock and Thanos podcast. So that should be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about the comic, and we're going to be talking about the movie. So source material is a part of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, so you should be able to find that podcast pretty easily. So with that being said, let's get this party started. It's myself. It is Chris Armstrong talking Brave and the Bold 1 through 6. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Source Material Comics Podcast. That's right, I am Jesse Starcher, and this week we are going to be participating in the Superblog team-up to pay tribute and in honor of George Pérez. Everybody amongst cause. Absolutely. Everybody amongst the Superblog team-up is going to be talking about something that George Pérez has either done or been involved in some way. And this marks one of the 3 shows that I'm actually going to be in. We'll definitely be talking about George's work this week. Anyway, I'm not here alone. Of course, my 90s brother from another mother, Chris Armstrong, I said, buddy, tell me some stuff we can cover about George Pérez, something that you'd like to discuss. And you threw a big litany of things out there. We landed on this one. I can't remember if I chose this one.
Yeah, I threw out like probably 10 or 12 different things, and I think you zeroed in on this, and that was all. I was totally on board.
Okay, yeah. Well, the only reason I probably chose this was just because I didn't have any experience reading The Brave and the Bold. I knew of it as a comic book, but I didn't know like what the premise was. So I wanted to kind of experience something new. Going through these first 6 issues, so this is Brave and the Bold 1 through 6, came out in beginning of 2007, maybe it says April of 2007 was the first issue. And this was Mark Waid, very, very prominent name in comics lore, along with, of course, George Pérez here. They are the storytellers of the 6-part big story involving a lot of DC characters. Let me just ask you first, you at least did a little bit more research than I did in regards to the Brave and the Bold and the history that came before. Why don't you lay it out there what you found?
This 2007 series was the first time I'd ever bought any or collected any Brave and the Bold stuff. I had it in my head the Brave and the Bold was always a Batman Superman team up thing, but I think I was confusing that with World's Finest maybe.
Right.
So I was looking into the Brave and the Bold, like the history, and it's kind of interesting. So I'll just kind of go over some of the stuff I found out, which was that it was originally an anthology series for DC, and it featured tales from past ages with characters like the Silver Knight, the Viking Prince, Robin Hood. So no superhero stuff at all in the early days. Issue number 25 was kind of a shift in the title where it became like a tryout for new characters and new storylines and stuff. So like issue 25 was the original Suicide Squad's first appearance, which I didn't even know the Suicide Squad as anything but the, Ostrander, 80s. Right. Series until a few years ago when the first movie came out, the original Suicide Squad's first appearance became like another hot book in addition to the Ostrander version, which I think the original Suicide Squad was just like maybe like a Sergeant Rock type, like a war book. That was issue 25 of Brave and the Bold. And then in issue 50, that started the team up era with established superhero characters kind of joining forces. And pretty soon after that, it became just a Batman team-up book. Kind of like there's been a lot of Spider-Man team-up books for Marvel over the years, and that's kind of what Brave and the Bold became for DC. It was basically Batman and guest stars teaming up with him. I guess this was around the time the Batman TV show was a real big hit, so kind of made sense for them to focus on Batman. I just made a list of some of the notable landmarks in the Brave and the Bold series. Like issue number 28 was the first appearance of the Justice League of America. Number 34 was the first Silver Age Hawkman appearance, which was a Joe Kubert. I forget who the writer was, but Kubert's Hawkman was issue 34. Issue number 54 was like a proto Teen Titans with Robin, Kid Flash, and Aqualad teaming up. I think within a year they appeared as the Teen Titans, as that trio, but they first appeared in a team up book as a Brave and the Bold number 54. Number 57 was the first appearance of Metamorpho. Number 79 was the first Neil Adams Batman.
So nice.
A lot of history in the Brave and the Bold franchise. It kind of, after it ended, I think it ended with issue 200, and then there's been a few revivals since then. The most notable one, I think, is probably this 2007 version, which started with Waid and Perez. And I saw an interview with Perez about how he was planning to do the first 12 issues. That was going to be a big overarching story. DC pulled him off of it to do Legion of Three Worlds, I think, which was part of a Final Crisis crossover. Okay. So he didn't get to finish it. He did, I think, the first 9 issues, maybe 8 or 9. Issues 1 through 6 is kind of a complete story. There's some of that stuff follows up in the second story arc. But yeah, that was kind of like a brief history there.
Well, very nice. Did you read this stuff? I mean, before you?
Yeah, I was picking up Brave and the Bold when it came out. I was super excited because I was already a big fan of Perez. I pretty much would buy anything he worked on, and I like Waid quite a bit as well. So I jumped on board. I think I followed it through the end of the second storyline, but once Perez was gone, it wasn't a priority, so I dropped off pretty much after that. Okay. And then I picked it up again later when J. Michael Straczynski took it over with Jesus Diaz, I think, later on. And I picked up a couple of those, but I don't think I finished that storyline either. But for the early parts of the book, I was totally on board.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting here. Like I said, I'd heard of this series. I didn't know that. Let's just say I pull up the cover. I look at the cover and I see Batman and Green Lantern, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is going to be a team-up book. That makes sense. That's probably, I've seen stuff in the past that makes me believe that that's what we're going to be getting here.
You're not wrong.
No, I'm not wrong at all. But I had no idea what lie ahead of me. So there is a lot of references to a lot of DC properties in this, and we'll do our best. I can tell you, I'm not a scholar. Chris, I don't think, claims to be a scholar of DC Comics. So. No. These are issues that are absolutely worth a read, and don't just go by listening to us, because number one, this is just an audio format podcast. We're doing this in honor and tribute of George Pérez, you do not want to miss out on what unfolds on the pages because you want to see this.
We should maybe mention, I guess, the reason for this, the Super Blog team up, focusing on Perez. His recently revealed that he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he put out a statement. I'm sure most people who are listening to this have probably seen it, but he put out a statement basically saying that he, rather than go through treatments that probably weren't going to extend his life too much anyway, he would rather just spend his remaining time going out, visiting fans, visiting family, one last time, and trying to live life to the fullest for the rest of the time he has. And it really sucks because he's an older guy. He's been kind of semi-retired pretty much for, I think, about a decade now. But still too young, to be facing his mortality at this point. So it's a real bummer. He's a super good guy. You never hear any bad stories about George Pérez. So
it is a very dignified way of saying I have to face that I'm going to be gone soon, and I want you guys to know that I'm facing it. I want to celebrate my life with you guys. And it's like, dude, that's a big thing for just anybody to do that. His work, which we are doing here and the Superblog team up is doing, is being celebrated because it is magnificent. And so...
Just as a kind of a precursor to the actual book, this is, a book that kind of, like you said, it starts out with Batman and Green Lantern. You think standard team up comic. And as it goes, it just expands, with all these different characters. Mark Waid, unlike us, Mark Waid is a historian of DC continuity. And it's one of the things you always appreciate about him. He can tie modern comics in with the older, like Silver Age and stuff like that, and you don't have to know everything that he's referencing. It always still feels like a really inclusive and modern take on a superhero comic, even when he's roping in these storylines and characters from the past that you haven't really heard of in decades. And that's something that Waid's always kind of been known for. And this is kind of the perfect book for him and Perez to team up on, because it gives Perez a lot of opportunities to draw a multitude of different superhero characters in a short amount of time. He loves doing team up books and he loves doing different characters. So this was kind of a perfect pairing, and it really sucks that he didn't get to do the full 12 issues he was contracted for initially, but what we did get was really good. So
yeah, we get into this, of course, our creative team. We just talked about Mark Waid, George Pérez. We have Bob Wiacek on inks and Tom Smith on colors. Rob Lee, it looks like, is on lettering here. And so our first two stories are titled, actually, I think this whole series is titled, this whole 6 issues is kind of like titled The Lords of Luck, but there's a subtitle for each one of these. So there's The Lords of Luck Roulette, which is chapter 1, and then The Lords of Luck Ventura for chapter 2. So here we go.
That synopsis is coming up, but first let me talk about Amazon Music. If you're looking for a good platform that can fill those musical needs, Amazon Music has you covered. If you head to getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network, you can get a free 30-day trial where you can check out over 70 million songs. That's getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network for that free 30-day trial.
Batman and Green Lantern team up to investigate a mysterious murder where the victim's body has shown up in over 60 different places across the world, including space and the Batcave. As the pair track down clues that lead them to Las Vegas, they soon learn the victim was a Venturan alien traitor named Drake that was killed by other Venturans as they knew he had possession of the Book of Destiny. However, his murderers, Adam and Neferto, did not know where he left the book, and following Green Lantern and Batman, they just led them to it. Armed with the curious weapon called the Haruspex and intent to recover the Book of Destiny, the two aliens duke it out with Batman and Green Lantern. By the end of the first issue, Adam grabs the Book of Destiny and escapes, heading towards space, with Green Lantern quickly following behind, while Batman learns from Drake's significant other that the Book of Destiny has everything that was, is, or will be written in it, making it a relic of significant power. In issue 2, Supergirl joins Green Lantern, tracking the alien in the Book of Destiny to Ventura, which is essentially a planet-sized Las Vegas. Scouring the planet for leads, they finally figure out a way to flush Adam out and are in pursuit. Realizing he has been found, Adam attempts to make his escape by looking into the book, but he is hit in the head and knocked out by an operative for the Ranian rebel underground. Our heroes find out this Randian plans to use the book to turn the tide of the Rand-Thanagar war. Just before Green Lantern can control him, a Zeta beam appears over the operative, transporting him to Rand with Hal hitching a ride. But unfortunately, Supergirl cannot follow. Back on Earth, Batman is tracking Neferto and soon gets some help with Jaime Reyes, the Blue Beetle. However, Neferto may have the jump on the two heroes as he has them dead in the sights of his powerful weapon, the Haruspex. All right. So, boy, yeah, we had Batman, we had Green Lantern, we had this weird mystery at the beginning. And then I think we even had like an appearance from a girl. What did they call her? Was her name Roulette? Was that her name? I cannot remember her name. The villain.
I can't remember. That is her name.
It is Roulette. Okay, all right. Yeah. And then Supergirl shows up. We got Rand-Thanagar was actually playing a part in this, and yeah, I mean it gets pretty crazy. Zeta beams going everywhere. I just want to say, okay, our mystery at the beginning of this is a really neat setup. You know, Green Lantern finds this body floating out in space. It turns out there's over 60 copies of this body all around the Earth, one including the Batcave.
Right.
And it's like, that is so weird. What is what is actually going to happen? I thought, just to toss this thing out there, that is a way crazy way to get this first issue started. As the story progressed, Green Lantern and Supergirl flushing out Atom. It could be Atom or Atum. I don't know how you're going to pronounce it. I'm going to call it Atom. Hopefully everybody understands it's not the Atom from DC. But anyway, how they flushed him out, I think the way that they did it was Supergirl used some trickery and got everybody on the planet to bet against her in this big fight. And of course, she won. And the only person that knew that she was going to win would have been, sure enough, it would have been Neferto. So they were able to figure out where he was. It gets a little bit of a light shown on it as we get to the next couple issues. But there is an instance in here that shows the Book of Destiny. Yeah, it's got everything in it, but all of a sudden things are changing, and Neferto sees that at one point. So, I mean, this book is pretty cool. You can open it up, you can look at whatever happened in the past, what's happening now, what's going to happen in the future. But he's starting to realize that things are not really staying the same. Right. And then we got this crazy gun called the Haruspex, which is another crazy like concept. This book is full of them. But I could just tell you that, okay, you look at it and you think it's like this big massive gun that's going to shoot off these huge blasts. It doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. The main thing we're about ready to see is it's trained on the Blue Beetle and Batman at the end of this. And you're wondering, okay, what is this thing going to do? And one of the comments that I'd seen in regards to this story is that it almost fell in line with kind of like the way the Brave and the Bold had been in the past, where these stories are usually pretty outlandish.
That kind of tracks with Waid's style, I would think. Like he's going to do a Brave and the Bold. He's probably trying to give it the same kind of feel as it had, in the past, but updating it for like modern audiences. Mm-hmm. This hits right in the midst of kind of the Green Lantern revival, that Jeff Johns had going in the mid to late aughts. That was my favorite book pretty much in comics at the time. So I was, even if it wasn't Waid and Perez, I was going to be all over this issue because Batman and Green Lantern were jumping up. And it's cool to get a team up like this. You think Batman teaming up outside of Superman, you normally would think of him more with street level type characters, but you've got him with, a space cop, which is an interesting dynamic. And in the first few pages, Hal discovers this body and floating in space, and his first instinct is, hey, Batman, I've got a problem here, and contacts him. And then we get a little back and forth where Batman basically describes the body perfectly. And, Hal's, 20,000 miles in space or whatever. And he's like, my God, you really are the world's greatest detective. How did you know all that? And flashes to the Batcave, and the exact same, a body is in the Batcave lying there dead on the floor. Yeah. And Batman's basically like, don't give me too much credit. So that was a cool little joke at the beginning to kind of get things started. The back and forth between Batman and Green Lantern is kind of cool, especially as Hal and Bruce when they're going into this high roller casino. Yes. Bruce Wayne and his $10,000 suit or whatever,
Right.
is right at home, and Hal's, in his bomber jacket. They don't even want to let him in there. Bruce has to like tell the guy at the door, no, he's with me. And they get going on some blackjack. We see like the fearless Hal, he's at 20, and they keep saying hit me. And
Right.
And Bruce is like, oh wait, and then he wins. But it's just cool to see the characterization between those two in a non superhero action type setting. I really liked that.
Yeah.
And then the second issue is kind of the Green Lantern Supergirl team up. And this is the Supergirl that I guess had just appeared pretty recently, probably within 2 or 3 years before this. She showed up in Batman, Superman, the crossover team up book that they had going. And Jeff Loeb reintroduced Supergirl, and Green Lantern is constantly having to remind himself, hey, this girl's only 17. So it's it's kind of like, Hal Jordan is kind of, the horny flyboy guy. So
Right.
You expect that kind of thing. But then he's like, so if she was 18, is he going to be hitting on her? I don't, I would think just not wanting to piss off Superman would be enough to convince him to lay off anyway. But yeah, that was kind of humorous. And then the space casino, the casino, the Las Vegas Strip and all that stuff, Perez does a cool job with that. But when he gets to do the space casino, it looks like he's really getting to let loose. And it's just really, it's really awesome looking. But that's pretty much all I've got for the first couple issues.
Yeah, I did have the whole tension between Hal and Supergirl kind of on my list. Hal's like, look, stop with the crush thing. And she's like...
Yeah, she's really handsy. She wants to snuggle up with him and stuff. Right. Making things really awkward.
Right. But she looks at him at one point and says, so you think I'm what does she say? She says something like, you don't think I'm an adult? Or she says, you think I'm a kid or something like that. I can't remember what exactly it is. That's what sets her off. And she's like, okay, I'll show you. And then she turns off and turns around and then gets in the ring with those two ogre dudes and gets into it with them. Well, you got any thoughts on the Blue Beetle? This is a Blue Beetle that, again, I know of Ted Kord. So this is not Ted Kord. This is Jaime, I think is his name, Jaime Reyes. And he's got this crazy suit. You ever read anything with him in it? I
remember reading the first 1 or 2 issues of Blue Beetle. I never followed up on it. I know that was a popular character at the time. I remember maybe it was in Wizard or maybe it was just online chatter. There were a lot of comparisons to this was DC's answer to Ultimate Spider-Man, a teenage superhero that they were bringing in. This would have been post Infinite Crisis because Ted Kord was dead, I guess, at this point when he shows up. But I don't know. I'm not super familiar with the character. It's a really cool design on the armor and stuff, but I don't know a whole lot about him.
Okay. All right. Well, grab your first issue there, man. Let's go ahead and we'll pick some art here. See what our favorite stuff is. I'll pick first. That way, maybe I can back you into a corner. And man, I'll tell you, the colors on this are fantastic too.
Yeah. It's an amazing. This is kind of, I would qualify it sort of as just past prime George Pérez. Then that's me. To me, the Avengers run he did with Busiek in the late 90s is kind of what I consider the peak. A lot of people who grew up reading his stuff on New Teen Titans, Crisis on Infinite Earths, they would probably point to that. But this is after the Avengers run, after JLA Avengers. But he's still fantastic. And every page, there's there's nothing bad here. There's just not any super spectacular splash pages necessarily in this issue.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will take when the Yellow Monster first arrives. And one of the things that you can easily see with George's work is the amount of detail. And when you look at something, you can go, that's had to have taken some work to do. It had taken some time.
Yeah. And by all accounts, that I've heard, that's what he enjoys. He loves putting all those details in.
Take a look at that where the Yellow Monster first arrives. And yeah, you got you got Batman, Hal Jordan kind of flying away from it backwards, at some point, and you got the Beast coming through whatever this portal is. But how many lines do you think are made in that just from, I guess, in those blast? I guess it's a blast.
Kind of like that impact wave.
There has to be over or close to 1,000 just tiny little dashes.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing to me. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one.
Not a bad choice. I'm going to go, we don't have page counts on these issues, unfortunately, at the bottom. So this is in the midst of the conflict with Roulette, and I'm going to go with Hal. It's kind of a full length page. It's the first panel of Hal throwing a big Green Lantern punch and knocking this bad guy out of the window. This first issue really makes me want to read a Green Lantern Corps book that Perez works on, because something about Green Lantern is inherently silly with all of the him using the ring to make big boxing gloves, or a catcher's mitt he does at one point, and stuff like that. But that's you have to kind of embrace that silliness to enjoy the Green Lantern character, really. And it would have been awesome to see a Perez like Green Lantern Corps book. I know he worked on a lot of DC stuff where Green Lantern shows up, but as far as I know, he never worked on a Green Lantern book exclusively. That would have been really cool to see. But that's my panel, is him punching the guy through the window or through the wall.
I like it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, how about issue 2? Let's take a look at issue 2 and see what we got there. Good golly.
Again, a lot of really cool stuff here. He's got all these aliens in the background of all these different scenes in the casino planet. I'll go with the splash page opening on the planet, where you see the full effect of all of the casinos there and everything going on in the background.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. That's where they they get the credits in there too, which is a neat way of doing that. Check out these. Here's who brought you the comic. There's a lot going on there. And that's another thing about George's work, is that he does busy without it looking busy sometimes. Like he's the way that he does things is like there's a lot going on that page, and you can take your time and look at so much to figure out what is going on in just that one panel, or on that one page. There's so much that you can just sit there and enjoy. Okay, well then let me go ahead and I will take, let's see, the Brothers Grag. That's their name. The Brothers Grag, taking on any and all oncomers. And Supergirl goes into bat. They're towering over her. They're going to whip her. Of course, she dresses up with these little pigtails, holding a couple stuffed animals. She's putting on the show. I'll go with the one where it's kind of like a white background. The Brothers Grag flying in the air as she is like singing, swinging one of them into the other. So I'll go with that. That's dynamic enough for me. The Lords of Luck, the Lord of Time, Chapter 3, and the Lords of Luck, the Garden of Destiny, Chapter 4. That's what we're about to get into here. So our creative team stays the same. It looks like George pencils and inks page 21 and 22 of our third issue. So here we go. All right, catching up with Batman and the Blue Beetle. Neferto fired the Haruspex at him. Okay, remember, he had him in his sights, fires it, and the pair have to all of a sudden dig themselves out of an avalanche. So that is, like, I think one of the few times we see this thing aimed and shot, and it's, it doesn't shoot bolts. It makes weird things happen. So now all of a sudden there's this avalanche, there's this huge snowstorm that's going on, and Batman finally lays out the details about Neferto and his weapon, the Haruspex, which alters probability to maximize the odds of a kill. There you go. When Batman deduces Neferto would want off the planet ASAP, he mentions that someone that's interested in magical weapons may be interested in trying to help Neferto out in exchange for the Haruspex. Blue Beetle says, hey, wait a second, I know someone that just might be interested, and it's a lady by the name of La Dama, who actually is entertaining an offer to Neferto right at that time. But things get crazy when Epoch, the Lord of Time, shows up with the Fatal Five, okay, to claim the Haruspex. Now, I'll talk about the Fatal Five here in a second. Granted, we're getting into some Legion stuff, and that intimidates probably some of the even the more respected DC readers. But I'll do my best to kind of talk about Batman and Blue Beetle leap into action trying to grab the Haruspex, but during the fray, while Batman is fighting the cyborg Tharok, the Haruspex is fired at both of them, and the end result is hero and villain merged into one being. Scrambling, Blue Beetle is trying to figure out how to separate Tharok and Batman, but the rest of the Fatal Five may not allow him the time to do so. As Batman fights for control over their body from Tharok, Blue Beetle grabs the Haruspex, attempting to figure out a way to undo what happened. However, Batman gathers himself enough to force Jaime to pull the trigger, seemingly vaporizing Batman / Tharok. At the end of the issues, though, we check in on Batman, who awakens in a cell with most of the Fatal Five still attached to Tharok. So they're still together, but now all of a sudden the Fatal Five are like out of it, and he wakes up in this jail cell, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. When the cell doors open, it is revealed he is in a prison controlled by the Legion of Superheroes. So that's our first part of the story. Our second part is Supergirl. So Supergirl is trying to find a way to get to Rand in order to help Hal. A local resident says he knows the best navigator in the galaxy, and it just so happens to be the main man, Lobo. As the duo trek across space to Rand, Lobo continually wants to stop everywhere and drink. When Supergirl finally convinces him to leave, the two walk out of a bar, transported to a strange hedge maze that is attended by a being that the being says that he was the guardian of the Book of Destiny and was its sole reader, until one day he began to notice there were figures within the events unfolding on the pages that he could not see, and these figures were rewriting destiny. Now I'm going to read this specific panel. This is the Guardian talking here. The book was no longer safe with me, nor I with it. In my final moment of clarity, I realized the same men who were destroying it could repair it. I took steps to place it in their possession. So the Guardian sees these things that are happening within the pages of Destiny. He's trying to figure out who's doing this because he can't see them, and they're somehow invisible to the Book of Destiny, and they're able to rewrite it. So he's decided, well, I need to get this book to them because they're the ones that probably should be in possession of it. Now, the only problem is that he has no idea who these people are. He just knows these things are out there, but he says Batman and Green Lantern will know. So he's telling this to Supergirl, like, hey, look, I had the book at one point. Obviously, other people have got it now, but it needs to be in the possession of these people that I cannot see. But the people who know will be Green Lantern and Batman. But there is another caveat. The Luck Lords, or the Lords of Luck as he calls them, are manipulating events in order to get the book. So time is of the essence. Now, they've got to get this book before the Lords of Luck or the Luck Lords do. So Lobo and Supergirl hightail it to Rand, where Lobo drops her off, and she doesn't pay. Flying to the surface, Supergirl is attacked, and it turns out Green Lantern and Adam Strange are in the midst of helping the Ranians fight a battle against the Thanagarians. So, oh boy, was that a lot. Man, so what'd you think of the Batman saga that unfolded here? Give me your thoughts here, man.
The main thing I think I liked about it was just the interaction between Batman and Blue Beetle. Who,
yeah,
it was cool seeing, Blue Beetle thinks of Batman as this terrifying figure. He's really new to the superhero thing, so I don't think he'd actually met Batman before this. So we get a moment where Perez is doing a classic, Batman chasing a criminal down an alley, intimidating him, and Blue Beetle is just kind of watching, in awe at the whole thing. Really cool moment there. The Fatal Five, like you said, that's digging into Legion stuff, which I'm almost completely unfamiliar with.
Right.
And so these characters were all new to me at the time, and this is the only thing I've ever read, I think, with them in it. It's interesting that they show up, and Waid is tying the Legion in, because I'm pretty sure at this time he had just launched a new Legion of Superheroes comic, which is the only Legion book I've ever read. I read the first, probably a year or so of that book before I kind of dropped off of it. And I know at one point he must have really liked writing Supergirl, because he roped Supergirl into that Legion book in the later stage of its run too. But yeah, Legion stuff I'm super unfamiliar with for the most part. The appearance of the Fatal Five definitely kicks things up a notch as far as the stakes of the story. It's obviously getting bigger and expanding, with future characters and stuff like that.
Right. So the members of the Fatal Five, I'm just going to give names, and you do your best to kind of just describe what they look like. Okay. So I'm on the spot. I'm at the spot where they're running down the names and who they are. Okay. So I'll read you. I'll read the bubble. You tell the people what they look like. So this first person, after Epoch shows up, which
he looks like a spaceman time traveler straight out of a 60s sci-fi, cheesy sci-fi movie, basically.
Right.
Which is probably when he was designed. So
right.
Makes sense.
Right. All right. So we have Mano, whose antimatter palm vaporizes whatever it touches.
He's in what appears to be just like a yellow and orange, like spandex suit, but he's got a big, like an old school astronaut globe on his head.
Mm-hmm.
And you see through it, it's just almost like a skull with like all this energy enveloping it. Almost like reminds me of Holocaust from the Onslaught, or not the Onslaught, but the Age of Apocalypse stuff in X-Men in the 90s. And then on one of his two hands, his right hand, I guess antimatter palm is.
That's his antimatter palm.
So, he uses it to literally disintegrate some guy that's unfortunate enough to be within his vicinity.
All right, then we have Persuader, whose atomic axe can cut through absolutely anything.
He's kind of in like a gray and blue armor with like a helmet that like it's almost like an Iron Man helmet.
Old school Iron Man helmet, yeah.
Yeah, except it's all silver, you know. And he's got the big axe that he's using with two hands. And it's got like a little atomic symbol on the axe, just so you know that it's an atomic axe.
That's right. Emerald Empress, served by the mystic eye of Ekron.
She gives me like some Scarlet Witch vibes a little bit. No headpiece, but she's got like a green and white kind of a flowing, shirt with a big cape flowing behind her. And she's got a belt that looks like it's got emeralds all around it, which is kind of an interesting look. Yeah. And then she's got a giant green eyeball that floats around in front of her that I guess she uses to control. It also vaporizes some poor schmuck, with a blast.
Yep. Then you have Tharok, the brilliant cyborg killing machine.
He's the most interesting looking character, obviously. I assume this look is retained from old school Legion books and not just a ripoff of T2 or Terminator when Arnold is like half machine and half man in his on his face there. He's basically just a regular guy on his right side with, a standard like yellow suit. And then the left side is a fully a robot. So it goes right down the middle.
Complete cyborg there on that other half. Okay, and now apparently he is the only being alive capable of controlling the man-child Validus. This dude, wow, this thing looks crazy. Tell him about it.
Yeah, he's something else. He's looks like the bruiser of the group. He's probably about 15 feet tall, and bigger than. Closer to Maul than the Hulk.
Right.
Maul from the Wildcats than he is to the Hulk as far as his size. No eyes or nose or ears, just a mouth and a big dome over his head that you can see through with his giant brain exposed. 3 big fingers instead of 5 on each of his hands. Pretty interesting look.
So, okay, just real quick before I forget, because I was going through, you know me, fan of time travel. I'm like, I've never heard of this Epoch dude. He's probably been around for a while. Don't worry. Actually, I can tell you he's been around since. Created by Gardner Fox and Mike Sikowski, Justice League of America number 10, March of 1962. It's our first appearance at Epoch. But I want to read this. This ties into this. This is coming straight off of the wiki. In the notes, it says, in the original JLA versus Avengers 1980 canceled crossover by George Pérez. Yeah, that was by George Pérez. Epoch and Kang the Conqueror were the main instigators in the plot against the JLA and the Avengers. Then says the artwork was reincorporated in a panel of JLA Avengers number 3 to suggest a false timeline made by Krona's time distortions in which the two battled each other in the quest for the cosmic egg. Interesting.
Just as an aside to that, the aborted Avengers JLA from the 80s that never happened. A lot of that artwork is out there now that Perez, he did, I think, about 20 pages before they canceled it. And there's some really cool stuff out there. Like the Batman versus Captain America stuff in those pages is way better than what we got in the book that actually came out.
No kidding.
Which that was one of the few parts of that series that I was kind of disappointed with was the Batman Captain America face-off. I've seen where people have colored, like inked and colored those pencils that Perez had done, and they look really cool. And then I've actually seen recently somebody scripted those pages as well. I guess using, I don't know if they used Wolfman. Marv Wolfman was the writer, I believe. I don't know if they used script pages that they found of his or if they just, made up their own, but I've seen that floating around on Facebook and stuff like that. So those are worth looking up, even if just for to look at the completed art with the colors and everything. It's very cool.
Okay, well, hey, the main man Lobo shows up. I've got him down here as holy crap. I mean, this thing just continues to get bigger and bigger and bringing in more people. Now, Batman is, of course, like flung into the future, and the Legion of Superheroes have him in a prison. So that's a neat way to kind of end things on the Batman front and kind of keep us on the hook to find out what in the world is going to happen there. The Fatal Five was an interesting ad, and I'm just going to go ahead real quick. I'm picking them emerging in issue 3. Epoch's at the front and all of them coming out of the portal in the back. I will take that as my panel for issue 3. But before I get to picking panels, I want to throw it to you here for these two. What are you thinking here for these 2 issues? Anything you want to talk about?
It opens up with the Blizzard, which it's always cool to see Perez do a Blizzard, even if only for a few pages here. There's a sequence in JLA Avengers that's really cool. With a Blizzard going on, and then I think Crisis has a couple of scenes with that kind of art going on that's really cool looking. The Blue Beetle, like his demeanor and his interaction with Batman, I'm a big fan of. Supergirl and Lobo is a really unique pairing. It's actually interesting because I've probably read more Lobo in the last 3 weeks than I ever have in my life, because I read the holiday, the Lobo Christmas paramilitary special or something like that.
Yep, right.
I read that on Christmas Day,
That's
and then
great.
I actually just watched an episode of the Superman animated series that Lobo appeared in, and then this storyline as well. So I'm not super familiar with Lobo. I've never been like a big fan, but it is cool to see him show up and interact with Supergirl of all people. And
I will tell you real quick, if you ever get the opportunity, I'm sure there's stuff on YouTube on it. There's a couple things I will point out about Lobo that I learned when we did the Lobo paramilitary special back in I want to say it was a couple years ago. But there is a live action movie.
I think you pointed that out to me at one point. I never have watched. It's on YouTube though, right?
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. And if they have any clips of what occurred in Krypton season 2, Lobo shows up for I think 2 episodes, and I don't know how they got it right, but man, did they get it right. He is probably one of the best Lobos I've ever seen.
Awesome.
He wasn't he definitely wasn't as big and imposing, I think, as the dude that shows up in the thing that's on YouTube, the paramilitary special. But I will tell you that the attitude and everything that happens in it, because it's him versus Superman's grandfather. I think that's who it is in the Krypton series. But anyway, it's great. It is probably some of the best live action Lobo. There isn't too much of that, but it's probably one of the best representations of Lobo that I've seen, and I really liked it. I'm the same way with you. I don't read a whole lot of Lobo. I know of what I've read for the show. But it's enjoyable.
I'm kind of indifferent. I'm not a fan, or I don't dislike him or anything. I just haven't read a whole lot. The main connection I have with Lobo is actually an issue of Superman Man of Steel. You probably know where I'm going with this, from the 90s, which is one of my favorite cover gimmicks, where the issue is just Lobo fighting Superman. But the cover is a Color Forms cover. It's like a cardstock cover, on both sides. And it came with a sheet of Color Forms that you remember Color Forms from the late 80s, early 90s?
I think so. Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're basically,
dude, I know exactly what you're talking about.
They're
now.
Yes. Sticks that, you can peel on and off the surface of the Color Form board. So there were all these little tiny Superman and Lobo figures in battle action. And then there's guns and explosions and sound effects. And you can kind of create your own Lobo versus Superman battle on this giant Metropolis Color Form cover. Really cool. One of my favorite cover gimmicks ever. And I think the only one of its kind. I'm not aware of any others, but actually, you know what? Now that I say that, I think there was another one a few years later, but it's not one that I had. But that one was really cool. And that's the only Lobo I had read for years and years, probably until this Brave and the Bold series came out.
Yeah, look at that stuff. That's awesome. Like his freaking legs and stuff are
right. You can basically have Lobo explode.
That's so cool.
I had hours and hours of fun with that.
Oh, that's great.
And when I was a few years younger, when I first started getting into comics when I was around 10 or 11, my parents bought me a Colorform Marvel set that was basically a page with like 4 or 5 panels on it, and then a bunch of Colorform stickers of different Marvel characters, so you could create your own like comic book page and stuff. It was really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh, that's pretty much all I had for these issues. The 4th issue, more than the others, it seems like focuses mostly on the Lobo Supergirl interactions, and the other stuff, at kind of bookends the middle of the story. But yeah, other than panels, I think, I really love the state that Batman ends up in. It's kind of reminiscent of the composite Superman Batman, whatever that character is called, where they're each one half of the Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for these 2 issues.
Okay. All right. Well, I picked my panel on issue 3, which like I said, it's the Fatal 5 emerging from the portal.
I'm going to go with the last page, which is the image of Batman with Thorak, combined into one character.
Yeah. Yeah. That again, like, how weird can this get? It's like just one more thing on top of another thing on top of another thing as we continue to go through this.
Yeah, they're really embracing the wackiness of DC Comics.
Right. All right, and then issue 4, I'll let you do the first, pick the first panel out of that one.
In issue 4, I like the panel of Supergirl using her telescopic vision to kind of zoom in on the battle that Adam Strange and Hal Jordan are having with the Thanagarians over the city there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Everything seems to have its purpose, and it just seems like our heroes are overwhelmed, and it's, that's the way George can do things. He can just make it look like the odds are, number one, what's on the page is unbelievable. And that's a good one, man. I like that. I'll take Supergirl and Lobo arm wrestling.
Yeah.
and everybody watching them. Supergirl, all she wants to do is get to Rand. And Lobo's like, hey, let's stop here. Let's stop there. And supposedly she let him win, which, okay. All right. Well, Lobo is supposed to be able to hold his own. And, but we've seen the power of Kara there earlier where she took out those big dudes. So you never know. But,
yeah, that also leads to a great moment with Supergirl where after he wins, Lobo wants to set up the bar with a round, and kind of keeps trying to put off them moving along. And so this big giant alien, starts to order a drink, and then Kara just like flings him across the bar and looks around. Anybody else feeling thirsty? And crickets from the rest of the.
Yeah, the hedge mage was pretty neat. I had that listed down here, like them walking out and being transported to the hedge mage. Again, there's these fantastical. I use the word weird a lot, but I'll just go with fantastical. There's these fantastical concepts, like when they walk out into this hedge maze and, they try to fly up. They can't get out of this thing. When they fly up, they end up coming through the floor. When they go, she uses her telescopic vision to look one way and she ends up looking at the back of her head. And it's like, this is weird. So, again, using some neat concepts to tell a story. Mark Waid's doing a fantastic job here. All right. So, yeah, like I said, I'm going to kind of slow things down a little bit here. We'll just talk about issue 5 first, because, again, there's a lot going on. We got to figure out how they're going to get this Book of Destiny back, how they're going to get it into the right hands of the people, who the people are that they got to get into the right hands. Plus, we just left off like Batman's is it 1,000 years into the future? He's 1,000 years in the future, and he's half man, half I guess he's half Batman, half Tharok. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. So here we go. Chapter 5, The Batman of Tomorrow. Same creative team. On Rand, Supergirl rescues Adam Strange and Green Lantern, but starts to realize her powers are actually increasing due to the 3 yellow suns of the planet. The trio follow a lead of Adam Strange's to a rebellion leader by the name of Mondath. So they're still trying to find who has this book. And things are kind of lead them to this person by the name of Mondath, who, when they find him, they realize, yes, this is the thief from Ventura that took the book. He tells them that the book has helped the Rands turn the tide on the Thanagarians. So I guess the Rands were getting beat pretty soundly by the Thanagarians. And the only way to kind of sway the tide of battle was to bring the Book of Destiny in. Because apparently the Thanagarians have, or the Thanagarians, however you say it, they have a weapon of their own that's able to like do something similar to the Book of Destiny, or at least give them an advantage similar to the Book of Destiny. But that being said, so he's brought the book there. Supergirl tells him, hey, look, the Luck Lords have been manipulating you to get this book. And that's when he reveals on a page that the Luck Lords are already there. And she sees a picture of all three of them, Supergirl, Hal Jordan, and Adam Strange, standing there. And behind them are the Luck Lords. I think this is our first look at these things. And so guess what? It's your turn, buddy. You get to describe what a Luck Lord looks like. What does a Luck Lord look like?
They're essentially like robed, tall, like robed aliens with basically their heads are just giant eyeballs.
That's it.
The arms are kind of like gooey, veiny, inhuman, long clawed fingers. And the back of their eyeball skulls, have the same like gooey background, like backs of their heads. No mouths. They're talking, but that's a mystery how that managed to be.
Yeah, it's weird. All right, let's switch gears here. We'll talk about the Batman and what his predicament is. In the 31st century, Legion of Superhero member Brainiac 5 works diligently on separating Batman and Tharok and succeeds. Now they must figure out a way to get Batman back home, as due to him being out of time, chronal rifts are beginning to appear, allowing threats from different times to pour out. Batman asks Brainiac to use the Haruspex on him again to try and send him back, but when he pulls the trigger, nothing happens. So Batman grabs the gun and leaves the facility with Brainy's flight ring and heads into the 31st century. The Legion finally track him down and attempt to capture him. Batman even faces off with the Karate Kid before another time rift opens, giving Batman the chance to escape. Finding a slum, Batman ditches the ring, and when other Legion members, Starboy and Phantom Girl, find it, Batman confronts them. When Phantom Girl grabs the Haruspex and turns it on Batman, another time rift opens, and out comes a very alive Dream Girl. I didn't know she was dead. I don't know if a whole lot of people knew she was dead, but my goodness, what was her name? Phantom Girl. Phantom Girl was taken aback when Dream Girl popped out of this rift. When Phantom Girl realizes that the Haruspex can only work when it is used on someone perceived as a threat, Batman charges forward and she fires. In a brilliant flash, Batman and Phantom Girl look up, horrified to see one of the Luck Lords with the Haruspex and the Book of Destiny in their hands. So that is where we leave Batman and the Legion of Superheroes. It's not looking too good. First thing I want to bring up, and this is one of the things that kind of stood out to me, Batman versus Karate Kid, when that started to unfold, I was like, oh, this is good stuff right here. This is Batman is known as one of the best hand-to-hand combatants, hand-to-hand combatants that the Justice League has, and I'm fairly certain the same thing goes for Karate Kid in regards to being a member of the Legion of Superheroes. So getting those panels just drawn by George was fantastic, just to see that unfold. Now, the Dream Girl reveal where she comes out of the portal and they're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing here? And everybody, I think the Legion are like, don't say anything. She's been dead for a while. Even though I'm not a big Legion dude. I knew this was something big that was going on, and to have her show up there, I'm
assuming that's something that happened in the Legion book that Waid was writing. I don't remember because it's been, 15 years since I read any of those comics, but because he was doing the book, I think at the same time, I assume that's a kind of a tie into that series.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk about the Luck Lords. These are villains that are in primarily Legion lore. Yeah, actually, I'm on DCFandom.com. This character or group of characters was primarily an enemy of the Legion of Superheroes from the 31st century. Throughout my whole synopsis, I was calling them the Lords of Luck, and I think that was probably because of the title of the series, or the title of this series of stories. Plus, I think the guy from the Garden that used to read the Book of Destiny called them the Lords of Luck as well. But I've since learned they are called the Luck Lords. First appeared in 1966. My thing was what actually sent me off on my trying to find out who these people were. Really, I just wanted to figure out what their motivation was, because I was like, okay, we got a real fantastic tale here. Why in the world do the Lords of Luck even care about the Book of Destiny? So we kind of learn a little bit about that just in the research that I did and their past. Obviously, with a name like Lords of Luck or Luck Lords, they're primarily involved in either chance or destiny, fate, things of that nature. According to Comic Vine, they're an alien race obsessed with luck. So, I mean, it's about as simple as that. So I didn't know specifically why they were after the Book of Destiny. And I think that's going to get revealed here in this next issue. But again, these are some wacky looking villains who are they kind of have this like cosmic feel to them. In my opinion, but
I did see an image of them from one of the early appearances, and they pretty much look the same. Perez just kind of updated it for, maybe they didn't have arms in that original appearance. I can't recall for certain, but yeah, just really kind of goofball looking villains, but obviously quite dangerous.
Plot just continues to get crazier and crazier. I did not know that the Luck Lords were a Legion villain until I did the research. To have them part of the story makes sense now. I was really kind of wondering, like, why in the world are we going into Legion of Superhero territory with this? But it shows like the range of this tale that's being told. Like it's going from Batman to Legion. Get ready.
The big takeaway I had from this issue was the basically Batman versus the Legion of Superheroes, which another example of Batman wins. Pretty much like he's gonna find a way. And the Karate Kid Batman fight, which is just a 4x3 grid panels of just a full page of blow by blow of Batman versus Karate Kid, is really like the kind of the highlight of this book. And Batman has stolen a flight ring, so he's they're doing this midair hand-to-hand combat, which is really cool. So seeing Batman fly is kind of a bonus.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, I could tell you that like Brainy just continually insulting Batman and calling him a Cro-Magnon or basically a Neanderthal. That was fun to see. And then to see Brainy get, like you said, Batman wins. Brainy ends up losing his flight ring. And that isn't where I don't know if we even have it in the synopsis of the next issue, but I can tell you that Brainy does not meet a real fantastic end at the hands of a Luck Lord. So,
did you want to pick your panel first? You got one?
Yeah, I'll give you first go in our final issue. There's a lot of stuff that happens on the final issue, so I'll pick first here. Issue 5. How many people can you put on a page? How many things can you put on a page, George? I mean, the bats, right, dude? The bats coming out of the portal. Okay, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and all those things in the background. There's there's all that going on. It's kind of like that final page. That whole final page is great, but where after they pull the trigger on the Haruspex, trying to get Batman to possibly go back in time, there's a picture of like a disembodied floating head of, I believe that's Saturn Girl. But that face right there is a great example of George's work in regards to like, just if he wants to draw a real close up picture of somebody or close up face, close up whatever, a close up of a character, he can do it and it looks real. His work doesn't feel too cartoony. It definitely feels more grounded in reality. One of the things that I've pointed out in the past about George's work, again, we talked about it earlier, the amount of lines, the amount of time that he takes on a page and puts things onto a page. Hair is one of the things that really stands out for me. And you talked about Avengers, his Avengers run. Sit back, grab an issue that has Scarlet Witch in it.
Right.
Count the curls. Just sit down and count curls, and it'll take you a minute to be done, because that's how much line work goes into what he puts just in hair. That's just hair. I mean, that's what blows my mind is like, oh, that's just hair. Anybody else would be like, okay, 3 or 4 little things and we're done. He does not do that. And it makes it look so much better. I mean, just fantastic. But I'll take that final page because not only do we get that, a gushed and gushed about one little picture of a face, we get our big time full reveal and we're up crap creek without a paddle because the Luck Lord has showed up, and he's got both weapons in his hand. And I mean, just that final eyeball, just that eyeball. Look at all the lines on that. I mean, it's amazing. But anyway, all right. So there you go. That's what I'm taking. Now go ahead and take Karate Kid.
Well, it'd be easy to just cheat and use the whole page of the Karate Kid.
Oh, okay. I get you.
But I'm actually going to go with a smaller scale, which is the final panel on the page where now I'm struggling to remember the names of these Legion characters. So
yeah.
they're looking for Triplicate Girl. She's disappeared. Then they find the Triplicate all like tied together, basically.
Yeah.
And the mini Legion character, who's kind of like the size of the Wasp, I guess. She's approaching Batman with her guns drawn, and he just uses like a straw with a BB and launches that out and knocks her out pretty much. I really like that last panel there.
All right. Very good. All right, man. Are you ready to finish this up? We'll talk about issue 6.
For sure.
All right, here we go. So it looks like we get a little bit of a change up on the creative team. Still Mark Waid, still George Pérez, but the inks are now Scott Koblish. Colors are still Tom Smith, and looks like letters are still by Rob Lee. So here we go. This is our finale. Title of The Girl Who Knew Too Much. Victorious, the Luck Lords feel compelled to explain to a captured Batman and the Legion of Superheroes that their resistance means nothing by revealing a page of the Book of Destiny showing the past, which displays a very dead Supergirl, Adam Strange, and Green Lantern impaled on some spikes. They also tell of how their plan came together, allowing the Rann-Thanagar War to continue in a stalemate for thousands of years, while each side developed unimaginable weapons, one of which the Luck Lords are going to use to rewrite time. Now here was their motivation. This is what I was trying to dig, and it took me a couple times to read and figure it out. But their motivation is to eliminate all elements of chance throughout history. That's a deep concept right there, but that's exactly what the Luck Lords are going to do. They're going to rewrite time to eliminate all elements of chance throughout history. So now we flash back to the past. Events are unfolding, and during an attempt to get the book back from Mondath, the trio of Green Lantern, Supergirl, and Adam Strange are outmatched at every turn due to the Book of Destiny. Retreating, Supergirl tells Green Lantern that the Guardian of the Book said they need to get the book to the people that have been rewriting Destiny, and that she was told Batman would be the one that could find them. The team asks Supergirl to use her telescopic vision and X-ray vision to read the book from where they are in order to find Batman. She sees he is in the distant future, so Green Lantern and Adam Strange rig a Zeta beam that can pull people through time and rip Batman back to the past in order to find out who these saviors are. After confirming Supergirl did not see them in the book, Batman and Adam Strange use the Zeta beam to bring in the men they are looking for, and that is the Challengers of the Unknown. Now, I will tell you that I had a feeling, I didn't know, but I was like, oh man, is this going to be like the Challengers? Anyway, so the Challengers of the Unknown, here they are. And as the tide of battle swings to the side of the heroes, a large kryptonite talon swings upward, impaling Supergirl. Oh my goodness, it's all coming true. Green Lantern races her to space to heal while the fight continues. Remember, they got 3 sons up there. Hopefully that'll help her out. While the fight continues, and Mondath soon realizes the Book of Destiny is becoming quite useless, thanks to the Challengers. When the Challengers grab the book, the Luck Lords appear to try to claim what they believe is theirs, but are soon Zeta beamed to orbit Oa in order to be imprisoned by the Guardians. As the team try to collect themselves, realizing they have avoided a horrific future, they give the book to the Challengers of the Unknown for safekeeping. And as Supergirl heals, she appears to have no memory of what she has seen in the Book of Destiny. Or does she? All right. So there we go. That is our final issue, 6th issue of this Lords of Luck tale in The Brave and the Bold. I'm going to throw it to you first, man. What do you think?
Well, we open with, a really gruesome, it's a page from the book, and it shows, an impaled Kara and Hal and Adam Strange. I'm only just now noticing that, like, the claw finger, whatever, that Kara is impaled on is actually kryptonite, which I didn't notice until it happens later in the actual book. Something else I didn't notice on the first read through, or maybe I did, when I reread them here more recently, when they have Batman and Brainiac, held captive, and the rest of the Legion is impaled on in the background, and they're all dead already.
Yeah, this doesn't occur like right after that last issue. There's definitely some time that have passed. Most of the Legion are dead. Brainiac, I don't know who the young girl with the brown hair is. I'm sure that's one of the Legion, obviously. But yeah, Brainiac's still alive, and Batman's obviously still alive. Yeah, briefly. Yeah, he meets a pretty gruesome end there.
I've always liked the concept and like the look of Adam Strange, especially here with Perez doing the suit and the jetpack and everything. He's always looked really cool to me. I know there's Andy Kubert did an issue, or I did a 3-issue Adam Strange miniseries like in the late 80s, early 90s that I've got. The issues, haven't read them yet, but he's a character I've always been interested in, but I really don't know a whole lot about. So it was cool to see him pop up in here. Kind of the same with the Challengers, just characters I'm not that familiar with that I've always kind of been curious about. So when they do show up in stuff like this, it's always a cool bonus. The action is almost constant through this. This is the big finale and climax and everything. And the Challengers showing up, it's a really like dramatic entrance for them. So really cool conclusion to an outrageous kind of DC cosmic comic with a lot of you see the Challengers show up in this battle at the end, and one of them's, he's got this giant gun. It's like the size of a F-150.
Yeah.
And he's using a big like rubber band, I guess, to like pull the trigger. It's just like, what is going on here? But you just got to kind of embrace the wackiness of it.
We're approaching such scope and bringing so many things in. It's almost like, well, you didn't expect the Challengers? Of course, the Challengers of the Unknown are going to be in here. Yeah, so they've been around for a while. 1957, I think, is their debut. Showcase number 6 is what it said. It says, in an uncredited story attributed to Jack Kirby for art and Kirby and Dick Wood for script. So, yeah, the Challengers of the Unknown have been around for a while. I do want to point out, there's a point where Supergirl, she's traumatized by what she saw in the Book of Destiny. Mm-hmm. She sees her own death, and she sees all sorts of stuff that happens. Of course, when she does die and she goes up, gets healed, she comes back down. They're like, hey, do you remember anything? And she's like, no. She goes, but she says to Hal, she goes, does the name Magistus mean anything to you? Now, I'll ask you, does the name Magistus mean anything to you?
Does not.
Okay. Well, Magistus...
I'm assuming this is going to be stuff that ties into the Legion book that Kara ends up being like a co-star of later.
According to this, actually, Magistus does show up a couple issues later. 5 appearances in The Brave and the Bold. Issue 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And Magistus is an ancient, powerful alchemist who had long dominated his fusion between science and magic when he first saw signs of the final crisis as far as World War II. I'm trying to find a date on first appearance, but I'm fairly certain, there's 8 appearances here on Comic Vine. 5 of them are Brave and Bold. The other one is Brave and Bold, the Book of Destiny, which is that the trade of this?
I would think so, or of the next storyline, maybe.
Yeah, and then New 52 Futures End and New 52's Futures End. So this has got to be the first mention of Magistus. So definitely a character that they didn't just name drop Magistus and was like, okay, we're moving on.
So when he shows up in Peacemaker, this issue is going to skyrocket.
Get your hands on it now, folks. Get your hands on it now. You get first crack at a panel here on issue 6.
I'm gonna go with the panel where Adam Strange is attacked by the Aqua Ray, which apparently turns you into water.
Ooh, that was disturbing. I remember sitting there going, oh, he's dead.
Yeah. At the last moment, Hal comes to the rescue and shuts the ray down. But yeah, he's dripping away pretty much.
Yeah, it's not good. It's the 6th issue. Okay, we got a 2-page spread. Batman is getting Zeta beamed.
Mm-hmm.
Back in time, and well, let's see how much we can throw on a page here, because there is probably I don't know how many things are going on here that I have no idea about. I could tell you that I assume this looks like Adam Strange. I think. Here's the thing. Well, I mean, you can see Booster Gold punching some dude out.
Right. See an OMAC in there.
Is that what that? Okay, there's an OMAC in there.
The OMAC is the one that's like right underneath Bruce or Batman's legs, pretty much, with the mohawk.
Yep, with the mohawk. What in the world this half-ling thing is here with the half-fire, crazy dragon foot, blue-green body. There's some more. That might be Challenger stuff over there. Look at the dude. Look at the dude. That's got to be a Flash down there. There's like a Flash running forward.
Flashes.
Yeah, there's a Flash running forward and one running backward.
Yeah, which is a cool touch. That there's always a Flash trying to save the multiverse.
Right. And yeah, man, there's some really. It's almost like, hey.
Oh, there's two other Flashes too underneath the Adam Strange looking guy. There's a reverse Flash, and then underneath that, it looks like you can barely see, just like the
red and yellow. I see it. Yep. Man, somebody could pick this apart that knows a lot more than we do.
I'm assuming there's a lot of like Silver Age DC stuff and maybe pre-DC, like before, Flash, Silver Age era stuff. Is probably what a lot of these things are.
Okay, I'll tell you what we need to know. But we're not gonna spend time and figure this out right now because we've been talking for a while. But okay, we need to know what that car is. Down there on the very bottom, if you go down the bottom on the left of this panel, there's a car with a fin on it. And we're going to get answers to that at some point.
Okay, it is post-edit time. We got answers. That's right. We now know what this mysterious vehicle is that resides in the bottom left of this page. Yeah, reached out to our good friends over at the Superblog Team Up and asked them if they could shed a little light on what we see here. And Evan Bevins with the quick answer. This apparently belongs to a character by the name of Space Cabbie. I'm going to give you a rundown of Space Cabbie from the dc.fandom.com. Space Cabbie first appeared in Mystery in Space number 21, September of 1954. He just is a cab driver who, it says here specifically, he ferries his fares around in cab number 7433 in the second half of the 22nd century. Occupation is interstellar multi-species transportation expert, former soldier of fortune, and former laborer. Created by Otto Bender and Howard Sherman. So powers and abilities, driving. He's an expert at piloting and aerial navigation. Multilingualism, so I'm sure you need that as a space cabbie, driving around different aliens. And storytelling. He constantly tells stories to his clients based on facts, or not, from his own past. Most likely such stories tend to exaggeration. Wow. Okay, trivia here on dc.fandom.com. Space Cabbie is one of the few interstellar characters who has actually befriended Lobo and lived to tell the tale. We got to get back to our discussion of Brave and the Bold 1 through 6, getting into our final thoughts, but I wanted to pop in here. Shout out to Evan Bevins for coming through with Space Cabbie, and of course Chris Bailey for pitching in as well, and all the great participants of the Superblog Team Up. So, all right, let's get back to it.
And I'm going to post them on the Source Material Comics podcast page. So that
Looks
is
like a taxi, maybe. I don't know.
This is a shark car of some sort, orange shark car, but it's gone through the multiverse or the time stream or something. Oh, that's great. We got to look at that.
I wonder if maybe a lot of the trades for like Kurt Busiek and Mark Waid, a lot of times they'll do
like a direct
collected editions. They'll have like annotations and stuff.
Right.
So I wonder if the Brave and the Bold, maybe the hardcover issue version of that collected edition, if it maybe has some annotated stuff from Waid explaining what all this stuff is.
It deserves it. I mean, I know that
Crisis would help us out a lot on the history of a lot of these.
Watch us floundering around. Tell me about your final thoughts on the overall 6 issues we got here.
It's a really cool book that I'm kind of ashamed that it took me so. I've got a ton of like individual storylines and stuff from old comics that I've read, and when they came out, and I never have really reread them. When I was younger, 13, 14, you have less comics to buy, so they're precious. So you read them over and over and over again.
Right.
You get older and your collection starts to expand. You're getting new stuff every month. So there's always I've always got a couple of short boxes of stuff that I want to go back and reread. And this Brave and the Bold stuff has been in one of my reread boxes for probably 10 years. I just haven't ever taken the time until recently to go back and dig back into it. And I remembered very little. The only thing I really remembered about this was the interactions between Supergirl and Lobo a little bit, and the Karate Kid Batman fight.
Yeah.
That's always stuck out as a big memory from this storyline. So it was really cool to go back and revisit this one and see Perez get to kind of let loose with a variety of different DC characters and really go whole hog on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So big thumbs up. I'll probably reread it again, in the not too distant future.
Right. I had no idea what was going to happen here. I thought, okay, it's Green Lantern and Batman. We're going to get a nice team up and a neat story of these two where they have to try and figure something out. But no idea that we were getting so cosmic. I had no idea we were getting so expansive when it comes to bringing in people. I had no idea that we were going to get this much in a 6-issue story. There's a lot that happens with a lot of characters that are established DC heroes and villains. So kudos to Mark Waid for coming up with a story. Of course, absolutely 100% enjoy the art that George put to the page. There's so much. I mean, yeah, dude, you can reread this, and unless you're sitting there and taking an hour on each issue, you're not probably pulling everything out of it that was put into it, because
Right.
There's so much. But
This would be a good time to plug the sponsor of the W2M network, and that is Grammarly. For you, the listeners of Source Material, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M network to download Grammarly for free.
so I know you posted a picture of you and George hanging out, and I got to ask you, what led to this? What happened?
Well, I mean, it was just a convention appearance, essentially. I live in Paducah, Kentucky, so right across the river from my town here is Metropolis, Illinois, and Metropolis is sort of the adopted hometown of Superman. Officially. So there's a Superman museum there. They have a big Superman celebration every summer, which, I mean, Metropolis, Paducah's not a big town. It's pretty small, and Metropolis is even more so. It's a really small town in Illinois. But they've for 40 years or whatever, they've been embraced as like Superman's hometown. So they have the celebration every summer. A lot of times they'll have celebrities. They used to have Margot Kidder's been there a few times. Lois Lane from the Superman movies of the 70s and 80s. The Lois Lane from the old 50s George Reeve television show. She has a statue in Metropolis. She used to come every summer, and Smallville actors, come to the thing, and then they always have comic book guests as well. So one year, George Pérez was there, and I was like, well, I'm not going to miss. I don't go to the Superman celebration very often because it's hot. It's in the middle of the summer. It's almost like a kind of a state fair type thing. So it's not really my thing anyway, outside of the fact that it's Superman based. But when they do have comic book people I care about, I usually try and go. Jeff Loeb was there one year. I got a couple comics signed by him. Kurt Busiek was there one year. That was a really great interaction, and I got to talk to him for like 10, 15 minutes. But yeah, when Perez was there, I knew I had to make sure I made it. And that was actually going to be 10 years ago, I guess, this summer. It was 2012. I took a bunch of books. and waited in the line or whatever. I got up to talk to him, and I was like, "Hey, do you have like a limit on how many books you'll sign?" And he's like, "No limit, as long." Like he basically was like, we want to be aware that there are other people waiting, but there's not like a hard limit. So he signed, maybe 10 or 12 single issues, and maybe 5 or 10 like hardcovers. I had my JLA Avengers hardcover, some of my other stuff, and he was just a super nice, personal guy. I got a Thanos sketch that he did for me at a very reasonable price, and got a picture with him. Super, super nice, personable. I've always heard the interactions with him have always been pleasant from everybody. All the experiences other comic pros talk about Perez in glowing terms and stuff, and that was the experience I had. He was super nice, super great guy, and it was a real treat because I can say I've had the pleasure of meeting 2 living legends in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've met Royce Gracie, the UFC, the initial UFC champion when I was doing jiu-jitsu here. There's a Gracie school, and he came and did seminars a couple of times. So I got to meet him probably about 10 or 15 years ago now. And then I got to meet George Pérez. Like those guys are literally like legends in their fields. And it was really like an honor to meet those guys and get a picture with them and stuff. So, and both times really pleasant experiences and exchanges with them. So can't say enough good things about George Pérez.
Okay. Can you give me an idea of when you think you first recognized his work?
That's a little tougher because the Infinity Gauntlet book, that came along about a year into my comic book, reading experience. And I definitely picked up all of those issues. He only worked on, I guess, the first 3.5 issues. But I wasn't somebody like I was young. I didn't really care about, I didn't really start to notice. I knew art that I liked and didn't like, but I didn't follow writers or artists really at that time.
Right.
Not till I got to be a little bit older. So the first time I really probably recognized Perez as an artist I was a really big fan of was probably when he did that Avengers run in '97. He had worked on stuff that I had read in between Infinity Gauntlet. Like he did some stuff for Malibu, Ultra Force, and Prime, a couple Prime issues, but those I think were released in that dead period where I wasn't really into comics. So I think when I really I guess I knew who he was because of Crisis. I knew that was a big deal, and I knew that Wolfman and Perez on Teen Titans and Crisis were a big creative team. Yeah. But I'd never read those, when I was younger. Those were books that, didn't really have, collections weren't really a thing, not much of a thing anyway, until the late 90s. So the first time I really probably started to follow Perez is when he did that Avengers run. And then from that point, I, would read everything I could that he did.
Yeah. I will absolutely say it was Infinity Gauntlet. I certainly wasn't paying attention to who's writing what or who was drawing what. But when I read Infinity Gauntlet, it felt like it was set apart from other things that I had read. So, I've had the opportunity to clearly read it again. I also did a podcast on the Infinity Gauntlet and to look at what was put on the page by George. It's hard to even describe the magnificence of some of the stuff that occurs. I've had the chance now with these shows that I've been doing. I was able to go back and experience the new Teen Titans. And again, look at Wolfman and Perez, put those together. The Avengers stuff is actually something that I never read. And I talk about this actually on the Unspoken Issues that we're doing that I'm doing with Dean and Derry. I wasn't reading Avengers in the 90s. It was kind of like one of those things where it was like, okay, you got your Image books and you got Marvel trying to do Avengers again. And I was like, nah, I'll pass. But now all of a sudden I'm like, we just did Avengers and Squadron Supreme. And I was like, this is really, just looking at what unfolds on the page looks great. So I'm kind of sad that I missed that stuff. And I didn't really read much Wonder Woman, but Crisis took me forever to get to Crisis and actually read it. But wow, I mean, there is the quintessential George Pérez putting 9 billion people from that universe on a 2-page spread. I remember that being something that really spoke to me and made me understand that the talent that this guy has to make everything look like this and have that much detail on the page is just it's just amazing. So I mean, to have us be able to talk about the impact that he has made, not only in the comics, the comics medium, but also amongst his peers and amongst his fans, to carry that legacy of being a great person just all around. It's heartbreaking to see that end. And he has to face the inevitable, I guess. It's hard to put into words, but
it really is disheartening to see somebody in the kind of a public sphere that you've admired and really enjoyed their work for a long time, have to kind of face their mortality. And I don't, not to give out false hopes or anything, but people get diagnoses, and they get a time frame all the time, and they exceed that by months and sometimes years. So there's still the hope that maybe he will be around longer than he's expecting, that people are expecting, and if not, he seems to be prepared for whatever's coming in the next handful of months and maybe years. It's admirable the way he's facing it and dealing with it, and he's kind of restarted a new Facebook page since the news came out, and he's constantly, giving updates of, him visiting his parents, his family, talking about how much he loves his wife, which is something he's always kind of done on social media. Right. Just a really joyous person, and definitely encourage people to follow his social media accounts if you're not already doing so.
This episode, along with all of the other Superblog Team Up contributions, are in tribute to George Pérez, and our thoughts are with him and his family as they face this challenge. We wish only the best. So with that being said, for Chris Armstrong, I'm Jesse Starcher. This has been the Source Material Comics Podcast. Thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight. We'll talk to you again soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.